Hi, good day. Welcome to iTech 360 Security Management. And today's topic is firmware and software of security architecture. So, in terms of software and a security architecture, you all know that the CPU of the computer is designed to support the execution of a set of instructions associated with that computer. So, this set consists of a variety of instructions such as add width, carry, rotate bits, left, move data, jump to location, etc. Right? Each instruction is represented as a binary code that the instruction decoder of the CPU is designed to recognize and execute. These instructions are referred to as machine language instruction. The code of each machine language instruction is associated with English-like mnemonic to make it easier for people to work with codes. So this set of mnemonics for the computer basic instructions set is called assembly language, which is specific to that of the particular computer. So there is one-to-one correspondence of each assembly language instruction to each machine language instruction. For example, a simple 8-bit instruction word computer, the binary code for the add width carry machine language instruction might be a set of zeros and ones, and the corresponding mnemonic could be letters like ABC. A programmer who is writing this code at the machine language level would write the code using mnemonics for each instruction. Then the mnemonic code would be passed through another program called assembler that would perform one-to-one translation of the assembly language code to the machine code language. The code generated by the assembler running on the computer is called the object code, and the original assembly code is called the source code. So the assembler software can be resident on the computer being programmed, and thus is called the resident assembler. If the assembler is being run on another computer, the assembler is called the cross assembler. The cross assemblers can run on various types of models of computers. So a disassembler reverses the function of an assembler by translating the machine language into an assembly language. So in terms of languages, which we will get to, there are lots of different software and different types of languages. For example, the 5 generations, which we will talk more about later on in the video. And as mentioned, there are many different languages in terms of generations from 1st to the 5th. All these languages in terms of software is converted into machine language so that the computer could understand, and it could be binary, it could be Pascal, it could be C++. All the languages are converted back to machine code so that the computer could interpret and understand what the message is or the instructions. So as mentioned before, we have the languages from 1 to 5, first generation language, second generation language, going straight to 5th generation languages. And going into the video, I'll be explaining all about these languages. So firstly, we have first generation languages, which is basically is low level languages that are machine language. So what does low level language mean? It is basically programming language that provides little or no abstraction of programming concepts and is very close to writing actual machine instructions. Two examples of the low-level languages are assembly and machine code. So the low-level languages are useful because programs written in them can be crafted to run very fast and with very minimal memory footprint. However, they are considered harder to utilize because they require a deeper knowledge of machine language. So here we have second generation language, which is basically programming language. It's very similar to the first generation. It's a grouping of programming languages associated with assembly languages. So unlike the first generation languages, programs can be written symbolically using English words, also known as mnemonics, in a way that a human can understand and are subsequently converted into machine language by an assembler. So assembly languages are specific to computer and CPU. The term is used in the distinction between machine languages, which is first generation, and higher level languages like 3, 4, and 5th generation languages. So from second generation languages, we move to third generation languages, which is basically a grouping of programming languages that introduce significant enhancements to second generation languages, primarily intended to make the programming language more programmer friendly. So English words are used to denote variables, programming structures, and commands. And also structured programming is supported by most third generation languages. So third generation languages move away from the cryptic commands of assembly language and one step below fourth generation languages. They are favored using aggregate data types, variable names, and ability to define sections of code as subroutines. The program in 3GL or third generation language is called the source program or source code, and it is subsequently converted by a specialized program, the compiler, to object code, which is understandable by the specific computer or the CPU. So we move on to fourth generation languages. 4GL or fourth generation languages are more programmer friendly and hence enhance the programming efficiency with usage of English like words and phrases. They use more English like words and phrases, I should say. Also use icons, graphical interfaces, symbolic representations, etc. So the key to the realization of efficiency with the fourth generation languages lies in and match between the tool and the application domain. So additionally, fourth generation languages have widened the population of professionals able to engage in software development. So many 4GLs are associated with databases and data processing, allowing the efficient development of business-oriented systems with languages that closely match the way the domain experts formulate business rules and processing sequences. So many of such data-oriented 4GLs or fourth generation languages are based on the structured query language, which is also known as SQL, invented by IBM and subsequently adopted by the. Then lastly, we have fifth generation languages. The programming languages of this generation mainly focus on constrained programming. The major fields in which the fifth generation programming languages are employed are artificial intelligence and artificial neural networks. So these languages can be used to query the database in fast and efficient manner. In this generation of languages, the user can communicate with the computer system in a simple and easy manner. That's why the use of artificial intelligence and artificial neural networks are developed. And as the generations go along to present day, there are more and more easy ways to basically communicate with the computer system and make the experience much more easier. So moving along from generations of languages, we move on to open system. So basically, an open system in the context of computing is a computer system that combines portability and interoperability and makes use of open software standards. It typically refers to a computer system that is interoperable between different vendors and standards, allowing for modularity so that the hardware and software need not be attached to a single vendor or platform. So when we use the term interoperable, we mean that the computer system or software are able to exchange and make use of information. So there's an exchange of the information, which is why it's an open system. So the popularity of the Windows and the PC means that the third-party software and hardware is often shareable with these systems, and most software made for Windows is portable to any other computer system running other versions of Windows, etc. So because of this portability and exchangeability, despite Windows being a proprietary OS, a computer running the Windows OS can be considered as an open system. So lastly, we want to talk about distributed systems. So distributed systems, from the migration of computing from a centralized model to the client-server model, has created new sets of issues for information system security professionals. So in addition, this situation has also been compounded by proliferation of desktop PCs and workstations, etc. So a PC on a user's desktop might contain documents that are sensitive to the business or an organization and that can be compromised. So in most operations, a user also functions as the system's administrator, also the programmer and operator of the desktop platform. So the major concerns in this scenario is basically desktop systems can contain sensitive information that might be risks of being exposed. Users might generally lack security awareness. A desktop PC or workstation can provide an avenue of access into critical information systems of an organization. Also, downloaded data from the internet increases the risk of infecting corporate systems with malicious code or an unintentional modification of database and the desktop system and its associates might not be protected from physical intrusion or theft. Might have a lack of proper backup and so on. Also, security mechanisms can be put into place to counter these security vulnerabilities. So some of these are: we have robust access control, which includes biometrics to restrict access to desktops, graphical user interface mechanisms to restrict access to critical information, file encryption, separation of processes that run in privileged or non-privileged processor states, protect the domains, also a centralized backup of desktop system files, protection of sensitive disks by locking them in non-movable containers. So this could be a physical method. Control of software installed on desktop systems, and also encryption and hash totals for use in sending and storing information. So all of these different security mechanisms mentioned can put in place to counter the security vulnerabilities that existed in distributed environment. So I have come to the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed and understand all the content in it. If there's any questions, feel free to comment under and I will reply as soon as possible.